Customer brought in this 2011 clone. It's a wide body 1911 with a polymer receiver. Manufactured by Tisas out of Knoxville, Tennessee. This one's chambered in 9mm Luger, also known as 9x19mm. Serial number on this one is T0620-24EF03843. And in the tactical rail cutouts, it reads Duty 9 DS Tisas Turkey. This pistol already has an ambidextrous thumb safety and a beaver tail. That being said, the customer doesn't like how shallow of a paddle is on the left side. He really doesn't use the right side paddle. He's a right-handed shooter. This paddle is a little bit sharp, but it just doesn't stick off enough for him. This is a competition gun or a target gun for him. So what we're going to do is try to find a left side paddle that matches up with the right side so that we can save a little bit of money. And we're going to do a trigger job. This trigger weight's right at about 5 pounds. We're going to make it a little bit crisper and bring it down to right around 4 pounds. Now that we have the slide removed, we also remove the extended mag well, and we replace the mainspring housing pin with a punch just to keep the mainspring housing in place. Ultimately, we're going to have to remove that to get to the sear spring, but I wanted to show you the thumb safety and the grip safety first. So in order to get this ambidextrous thumb safety off the gun, first we need to cock the hammer all the way to the rear, and then put the safety on safe, and then wiggle it up and down and try to get your fingernail under the paddle closest to the pin as possible and pull it away from the frame. And there, our plunger tube assembly popped out. We know how to fix that, don't we? And then the right side paddle, you have to swivel that all the way up until this ear clears the receiver, and then it'll pull away. Now, a really nice feature I like about some of the 2011s and some of the 1911s is that the grip safety just pulls right away from the frame. You don't have to remove the mainspring housing. We do ultimately have to do that to get to the sear spring, though. I peeled away the skateboard tape, which will lay back down really nicely when we're done here. We're going to shorten these hammer hooks here in a minute. But the one thing I wanted to show you first was how to tension these sear springs. Notice how the far left spring is even with the center spring. So the far right spring is for the grip safety. The center spring is for your disconnector. And the far left spring is for your sear. So if we can retension this sear spring a little bit to the rear, it'll lighten up the trigger pull just a little bit. So the way we do that, now we have to be careful. If you'll notice that this sear spring and the disconnector spring thin out a lot here. This is a Colt style design that they created to keep the springs from interfering with each other. So we have to make sure we don't break the sear spring down here at the base. But what we want to do is just grab the spring and anchor it tightly in our fingers and just bend it to the rear. And see how much I moved it just by putting some pressure on the spring at the base of the spring. I was able to retension it. dramatically. Now that's probably going to reduce at least a pound from the weight of the trigger pull. Now let's go take care of this hammer. We'll find a thumb safety and then we'll get it reinstalled and we'll be all done. We're going to lock our hammer down in our soft jaws here. And then using a 17 thousandths feeler gauge and a honing stone, we're going to grind those hammer hooks until they're flush with the feeler gauge. Really shouldn't take much to do that. Now, if you brush your teeth, which you should, use your old toothbrushes to clean your firearms. We're almost done with this project now. We just need to find a replacement for the left side ambi paddle, and we'll be all done. Modifying the spring in this way allows the assembly to retain itself within the plunger tube upon removing the thumb safety. Here's a replacement paddle for the ambidextrous safety. This is a raw casting that hasn't been finely tuned yet. It was a reject as the result of cosmetic blemishes, but that's not going to keep us from using this paddle. What's important here is that it matches up just perfectly. Now this is a factory Tisas, and this is a factory Wilson Combat Safety. And it's beautiful how they come together like that. Let's go ahead and put this left side paddle in the receiver and see how it matches up to the sear. We need to displace the safety detent in the plunger tube so the safety will drop down. And there, now it's sitting against the sear. This is going to be really hard to see on camera, but if you can see how the safety lug is hitting against the side of the sear, we need to file on that safety lug so that the lug sits behind the sear without actually touching it. Alright, we're all done filing on this part. It did require a lot of fitting, and that may not necessarily speak to the quality of the Tisas. It could just be simply how the lug was molded to the side of the paddle, exactly where it sits in relation to the sear. But it fits really well now, and again, that's going to be really hard to see on camera. But if you can see how the lug, as it rotates up behind the sear, it sits behind the sear, but it's not actually touching it. It looks like it is, but it's not. And if there was excess room between the sear and the safety lug, when we pulled the trigger, we would probably feel a little movement, and then when we drop the safety, the hammer would probably follow. So this is a well-fit thumb safety, although it doesn't match. Let's see how we can get the other side together with it. So we put this side in, allow that to come down. Use our tool. Ah, there it is. Well, that's a really nice fit for two parts that were never meant for each other. All right, now we got a new safety paddle installed on the left side for a right-handed shooter. That's a lot more comfortable. It's not as sharp, but it does sit off the frame a little bit more, which just makes it more comfortable for the thumb. All right, let's test this trigger pull. £3.5 pounds. Awesome. Thanks for watching, people.